Hey everybody. So why are we here this time? Well, we're here because, you read it through the description and all that. We're here to show that Ready Player One could have been a better movie if it just followed the book a little bit closer, and if those involved might not have been in such a hurry to get things done, might have had some character development, and we might have had some better movies from the book. This is how my company, Lit2Animate, would do an animation or a movie if we could get things done. So if we did have, the ability to, work with Ernest Cline, this is how we try to get the movie done. So of course there's spoilers, and we are using some help from another set of videos called "What's the Difference?" We're checking on Ready Player One.
Before any sci-fi can break into its plot, it must first set the stage.
The movie drops us in 2045 Columbus, Ohio, and reveals how Earth has become a real bummer with all sorts of social, economic, and environmental issues plaguing humanity. Corporate fat cats like IOI wield unparalleled power while mankind stops trying to solve its problems and instead distracts itself hoping to outlive them. This distraction comes in the form of the greatest video game ever made, the Oasis, a virtual MMORPG where your reality is only limited by your imagination.
The book, however, begins in Oklahoma City and paints an even bleaker picture of reality. Think energy crisis, widespread famine, poverty, disease, abandoned cities resulting from catastrophic war and neglect. A real horror show. So it's no surprise that so many people choose to live their waking life inside the Oasis, which is much more than a video game. It's a complete society where people have jobs, go to school, vote in elections.
So, if I remember it right in the audiobook, even though it might be slightly different from the regular book, which I kind of doubt, not only was most of the world, actually done through this society, it wasn't something like you chose. It was something that was done. You vote through the Oasis. You go to school through the Oasis, and it was much more remote than it is like now. I mean, you would have your VR character. Your VR character would go to school, and a lot of the main reasons why the book would be good if it was a little more directly into the movie would be a little more ingrained. You could get into the world a little more. That's why stretching it out a little bit instead of the short time that the movie was, you could get more ingrained and you could get more character development. And that's one of the bigger reasons why books to movies would do better if they were just longer, like some of the great examples that are pretty much really well known.
Do damn near everything but eat and sleep.
The movie breezes through the exposition and introduces the book's inciting incident, which is simplified for brevity's sake. When the father of the Oasis, James Halliday, passes away in 2040, he leaves behind a quest involving a series of clues leading to 3 keys that, when collected, would lead to an Easter egg, which awards the player full control of the virtual world. Oh, and $500 billion.
Holy Cyndi Lauper.
Who?
But in the book, Halliday's quest is much more complicated. Not only do players have to find keys, but they also have to find corresponding gates. So by making the quest consist of just 3 challenges, the movie has already cut its plot down to a more manageable size.
Okay, so did they make the 3 tests more manageable or more easy? I think they made them more easy to deal with, along with the removing the gates. Prevented some of the possible copyright issues, which I think they probably could have gotten the rights to these different movies, probably would not have cost them that much, and they probably still would have made the same amount, if not more, if they were able to get the important stuff from the book. I know the author was a part of it, but if he was able to get the rights, if he was able to convince Warner Brothers or Spielberg to try to get the rights, I think it probably would have done better.
Not wasting time, the movie quickly introduces us to the rest of the key players.
Locate H.
First up, Wade's one and only friend, H, a kick-ass gamer described in the book as a tall Caucasian male with brown hair.
Artemis, a famous gunter who in the book is described as Rubenesque.
Like the way that the movie did it, I didn't think it was too bad, but I don't like the way that they just added in Artemis, and then she just was poof in the race, and then was poof friends with them right off the bat. In the book, there was some animosity, and when he first saw her during the first test, which we'll get to in a little bit here, it was a pretty big statement that she was actually there just a little bit before he actually got there. Again, spoilers, but if you haven't seen it by now, and yeah, I mean it was a huge thing that they met at that point, and in the movie it was just done so quickly. They were slammed together, and it just made again for character development that could have been there but was just pulled out.
Anywho, once the movie blows through the characters, we're immediately dropped into the Copper Key Challenge, an impossible race through Liberty Island, and boy, is it exciting. Oh, look out, it's T-Rex. You remember Jurassic Park? I totally do. One of my favorites.
The book, however, takes its time getting to the first challenge.
So, I didn't write the movie, I didn't write the book, and I wasn't part of the script writing for the movie, but boo on that first test. If you've got a race that basically is done, that tons of people know about, if not everybody, and everyone can just race, and as it's kind of spoiled in this video as well, all it takes is for someone to drive back really quickly. Even if someone wasn't a big Halliday fan, it would not have taken more than a month for someone to just drive back quickly. Even if they wanted to slam into the back wall, somebody would have done it, and the test would have been almost moot. Basically, for a gamer to think that the first test of just driving backward quickly is that integral to the important part of the story, does not really know much about geeks and gamers, especially these days. Someone would have done it, and they would not have known any part of Halliday's stuff, and they would have just done it for fun. So that's why anyone who might have watched it, who is a fan of the story and who is just a geek in general, such as myself, they probably thought the first test, like I thought, was not great. And what I would have liked to seen is, what is coming up actually. If we actually saw the Tomb of Horrors in VR, I think it would have made any geeky gamer, any person that's played Dungeons and Dragons over the last 20-25 years, they probably would have freaked out about it and told a lot more people to go see it, and they would have really liked it. They might have gone to see it twice, and they might have gone to buy the movie and show it to people and all that good stuff. But that's one of the reasons why it didn't do so great.
The book's first challenge is completely different. Parzival finds its location hidden on the school planet that he was sequestered on. But in order to get the key, he must first win a game of Joust against the terrifying Lich King of D&D lore. Yeah. It is really fun, though decidedly less visual than an impossible race. And unlike the movie, he obtains the Copper Key on his first time out, running into Artemis on his way out of the cave.
But remember, obtaining the keys in the book is just half the battle.
So, again, I'm not the author or the script writer for the movies. I didn't make millions of dollars out of being, both of those things. But here's some critiques, of course. It makes sense that the early planets were the possibilities of the first test. It being on the school planet. The eccentric billionaire wouldn't care whether the person who was taking over the company was rich. He'd care whether they had a pretty good mind, a pretty creative mind to try to do it. So it doesn't exactly matter at all, at least the way I'd see it or the way that some gamers would see it, is if the first test was a race. That doesn't exactly make a whole lot of sense. The first test in the Tomb of Horrors, yeah, that definitely makes a lot more sense. In the Tomb of Horrors, you don't have to have a bunch of really powerful characters in order to pass it all, especially through the book. It's shortened in the book, and you don't have to defeat the Lich King. That's through the story as it goes to. You've got to defeat him in an arcade game, which is basically played as your character. And it's hard to do, but it's still, possible to get done. You don't have to be rich and be able to teleport off planet. So it'd have to be fairly early. Any kids could actually do it. Any parents who, just, wanted to go to free planets. The school was a free planet, and they could just go to it and see if they could, do the test. So in the Tomb of Horrors, it would have been known, again, as a critique of the possibility. It would have been known, let's say, in 30 years of just the Oasis. The first test, the Tomb of Horrors, the Three Keys, is pretty obscure, but it's still pretty well known in the geeky community. And even people that play the newer versions of Dungeons and Dragons, they know of the Tomb of Horrors, and they probably would have been able to at least get to the first test, if not eventually defeat the Lich King. Or, he's not really a Lich King. He's just a Lich. And a Sararak. And they'd be able to beat him and eventually get the first test passed. But again, we had to have the main characters be the important people. So there we were. Still, not too bad. But, character development, again, was ripped out in the movie. And the book, was pretty good on that.
So Parzival heads to a recreation of Halliday's childhood home and enters the first gate, in which he must play out the entire film War Games as Matthew Broderick's character, David Lightman, until he prevents nuclear war and is awarded a clue to the location of the Jade Key.
So, here we are with the reason that they don't have the gates in the movies. It is mostly because of the rights that probably would have needed to be, gotten for the movies. And I think that Warner Brothers probably does have the rights to be able to put in some movies that guys like myself or guys like other gamers would like to see. Some quick entertainment from the character actually being those characters in the movies. It not only would have added for some development, but it also would have helped the movie be stretched out a little bit instead of it being, that one video or that one movie. It could have been maybe two, maybe even a trilogy if it was, done well enough. If there was 3 parts in the book, it might have been either two movies, or it could have been even a third to be, the important ending of the of the story. So, it's how they wanted to do it. They wanted to scrunch it all together and forget the important parts of the test, even though some eccentric billionaire probably would not make it so easy as they did throughout the movie.
Now here's where the book and the movie split pretty hard. You see, after our heroes earn their places on the scoreboard, the movie's characters work together to solve the other challenges. But in the book, everyone is a loner, rivals even. Sure, H and Parzival are friends, but there was always a competitiveness at the heart of their relationship.
So, the way I see that bit, the movie had to make them work together to make the movie shorter, so that, there would have been, so that they jump to the different tests and make things easier for them. So you'd still think an eccentric billionaire would make things a little bit harder in that fashion. And some of them want to do some different stuff with the extra money. So more rivalry, more character development. And again, that is pulled out from the 2-hour and 20-minute movie instead of maybe a 4 or 5 hour trilogy, or maybe 6-hour trilogy, 2 hours at a time, have the different parts cut into to a couple different hours. You could probably have some pretty good stuff if you would have just kind of followed the book a little bit more.
Instead, Book Wade changes his identity and moves to Columbus, Ohio, where he continues the search for the Jade Key by himself. This goes on for about a year, in which he never leaves his apartment, with only max headroom and a sex doll for company. It's embarrassing.
The movie doesn't have this big gap in time. Instead, Parzival and Artemis work together to solve the mystery of the Jade Key, which turns out to be hidden in a memory of Halliday's one and only date with Kira, Morrow's future wife.
So what happened?
Nothing. I invited her over.
It was on that date that Halliday failed to kiss her after watching The Shining, so the High Five joined forces to find Kira in the Overlook Hotel.
Care to dance? Do you know how long I've been waiting for you to ask?
With only
So, The Shining, the best part of the movie, close to adding out what was from a movie. Well done. No notes. I think it would have made an actual great gate if they actually would have been able to get the rights to that. Then it probably would have made a great gate. That test was really well done. Probably was a great key, great gate. Would have been a fantastic add to an additional part of the movie.
episodes, and voila, Samantha is free from the bonds of indentured servitude.
Oh, yeah! But IOI has already discovered the location of the final key on planet Doom. And so in both mediums, IOI uses the Orb of Osuvox to create an impenetrable shield around the final challenge. With no foreseeable way to get through the orb from the outside, Book Wade gets his fake identity arrested into IOI servitude, where he uses black market passwords to infiltrate IOI's intranet. Wade steals all sorts of damning evidence about their nefarious activities and gathers intel on the orb. After a couple weeks of sabotage, he slips out using a disguise.
But in the movie, it's Artemis who goes all covert behind enemy lines, breaking into Sorrento's rig and obtaining the phrase needed to shut down the orb, while the other High Five members log in from H's truck and call for all the avatars of the Oasis to attack.
So, I had no problem with Artemis actually getting captured and her being the person that, broke the shield in the end of the movie. Thought that worked out pretty well, and at least there was someone on the inside that kind of broke things up. But it did make things a little bit quicker. When Wade was doing that, a little more covertly, when he basically faked his identity and, snuck his way in. And this was before, because he was trying to get some evidence and stuff like that against the company. But eventually, when he found out that they put out that big old shield, he found out a way to, to break it. And that worked out pretty good. And that was, again, pretty neatly done. But in that case, it removed character development and it removed some time. So basically, that sums it up for the rest of the movie. It was pretty close to the rest, and I think they eventually did pretty well with it. So in conclusion, the story could have been done better if it was stretched a little bit more, if the character development was in there a little bit better, and it could have been a two-parter, if not a three-parter movie, where it would have, more people would have been interested, the fandom would have been all up and interested in trying to get things going for them, and well, it's how my company Lit2Animate would have done the movie better.